Hey, Pilgrim family and friends, it's Megan here.
And Carney.
From Pilgrim United Church of Christ.
Welcome to our new video series,
Connections from the Couch.
We want to stay connected by offering our Pilgrim families and friends a spiritual snack.
And a hearty bite of hope.
Enjoy this mini church, and if your family would like to create a video for the series, stay tuned at the end of the program for more information.
To you from one of my favorite books. It's called God Got a Dog by Cynthia Rylant with illustrations by Martha Frazee. I'm going to read the inside cover first so that you know what's coming. It's hard to be God. You have to, well, be God. But you also get to be God, which means you have quite a perspective on things, a perspective that no one else has. No one. So there you are, looking out at the world and everything in it, and one day you just might want to see what it's like to be a part of it all. And since you're God, you can do that. And so, you do. God woke up, and he was groggy. So he got a nice cup of coffee and went to sit under an apple tree. He sat there, drinking his coffee, listening to the birds, when all of a sudden it hit him. He was happy. God was happy. And he wished there was just someone to see it. He'd gotten such a bad rap all these years for being ticked off all the time, and he really wasn't. Maybe a little cranky, but here he was, happy, mellow yellow. The birds were singing and he was at peace. Buddha told him it could be this way, but he'd never really believed it until now. Life really was easier sitting under a tree. God went to beauty school. He went there to learn how to give a good perm and ended up just crazy about nails. So he opened up his own shop. Nails by Jim, he called it. He was afraid to call it Nails by God. He was sure people would think he was being disrespectful and using his own name in vain, and nobody would tip. He got into nails, of course, because he'd always loved hands. Hands were some of the best things he'd ever done. And this way he could just hold one in his and admire those delicate bones just above the knuckles, delicate as bird wings. And after he'd done that a while, he could paint all the nails any color he wanted and then say, beautiful, and mean it. God got in a boat and said, wow. She'd never actually floated in a boat, though she'd seen people out on the water and told herself she'd have to try that someday. Water had always bored her until she started seeing people have fun on it. So one day she got in a boat, said wow, and headed out across the lake, and the whole world looked different. She couldn't get over it. It didn't look like anything like it looked from the sky or from the ground or even from inside a whale, which she'd tried once or twice. She sat in the boat and was surprised how much sense it all made. All the little houses and all the green trees and all the tidy cities and all the sky and all the land, it all made sense. She was surprised because really, she'd just been winging it. God made spaghetti, and she didn't have a ceiling, so she tried to make it stick to Jupiter, but that just vaporized the noodles. So God decided to have faith. It was cooked al dente. She filled up a big bowl and got herself a piece of sourdough and a copy of the New Yorker, and God had supper. And she would actually have liked somebody to talk to. She doesn't like eating alone. But most people think God lives on air. Apparently, they've not noticed all the food she's created. So nobody ever invites her over, unless it's communion, and that's always such a letdown. God's gotten used to one plate at the table. She lights a candle anyway. God went to the doctor. And the doctor said, "You don't need me, you're God." And God said, "Well, you're pretty good at playing me. I figured you'd know what the problem was." So the doctor examined him. She couldn't find anything wrong except a little skip in God's heart. Probably nothing, she told God, but eat more fish. God sighed. He was hoping for more than that. Maybe an antibiotic or a shot. He knew about that skip in his heart. He knew it was nothing fish would cure. The skip had started way back, when he first heard that some people didn't believe in him. It scared him. Still does. God got arrested, but they didn't know it was him because he had on his disguise. It was his guy disguise. He was actually pretty proud of it. It had a tattoo around the belly button, which hurt. Anyway, he got arrested because he got into a fight in a bar when somebody said something about Jesus Christ, except not in a good way at all. Might as well have insulted God's mother. Now there's a whole other story. Because God, who was only there because he liked the jukebox, lost it. And his anger erupted like the wrath of... Oh, right, never mind. Just be careful dropping names in Kenny's Tavern. Maybe next to a relative. God took a bath, with her clothes on, her robe to be specific. Why did she do this? She was shy, that's why. A little self-conscious about her body. God wasn't always this way. She used to be free as a bird, running stark naked everywhere. She never thought about bodies at all. Then these things started coming back to her. The whole misunderstanding with Adam and Eve, then circumcision, then talk of everybody being made in her image, until she got afraid to look in a mirror. Everybody had such high expectations, and now she was a little insecure. Could be she was flabby. Love handles on God would have to be huge. So she kept her robe on. God went skating. He loved it. He wasn't very good at it. He fell 20 times, but God always bounces back. Cool, said God as he whooshed past the old ladies. He felt invincible. He knew he was invincible, but he didn't always feel that way, not every day. God made some other friends on skates. God thought they were way cool. He was proud of them. Proud that they flew their spirits down the alleys and the boardwalks and the streets like angels. They were, you know, and they hadn't forgotten. God caught a cold, and he was such a baby. He never caught colds. He loved to brag about it. And now here he was, snot-nosed. It's hard to be authoritative with a cold. It's hard to thunder, "Thou shalt not," when it comes out, "Thou shalt not." Nobody takes him seriously. And besides, he wanted some comic books and juice and somebody to be nice to him. He called up his old friend, Mother Teresa. He asked her to come over and see him. He asked, could she bring some comic books? And of course she did. Mother Teresa loves all who suffer, even God. Maybe him a little more. God wrote a book. No, not that one. Everybody thinks she wrote that one, but she didn't. She's a better writer than that. Those guys just went on, and did they bother to edit? No. But wouldn't you know, you mention a name and you're in. So they said, I didn't write it, God wrote it. A sure way to get out of revising. But God wrote her own book. She wrote it for one little boy, just one. She read it to the boy at bedtime because the boy couldn't sleep. So God read him a book. The boy grew up. He became a writer. Which one? Not telling. God got cable, and for a week watched nothing but. Didn't see the comet, didn't see the hurricane, missed that baby being born entirely. Just watched cable. Funny thing is, he liked it. He knew he wasn't supposed to. All those girls crying about their boyfriends, all those track meets, all that soap and toothpaste. He liked it. Couldn't help it. Then Gabriel came over with a deck of cards, and next thing you know, they're playing poker 4 weeks straight. Gabriel's beard nearly as long as God's and corn chips all over the place. And what God decided was that he liked not cable, not poker, but a break. Every now and then, even God needs a break. God found God. It was the weirdest thing. God got all religious on herself. She was looking for something to do, so she went into this church in Boston, one of those churches from the 1800s that likes to consider itself old. This always gives God a good laugh. And she was all by herself, and it was quiet like you wouldn't believe. And up to the sky went those beautiful rafters, and all around her were these beautiful stained glass windows, and everybody was praying. All the people in the pictures, all the statues, all the angels in the room were praying. God knew better than to look at any of the crosses. She was still trying to figure that all out. But she knew that she had actually found a holy place. So she dropped a coin in the building fund box before she went away. God got a desk job, just to see what it would be like. Made her back hurt. God's always had a bad back anyway, the weight of the world and all that. She thought her job was tough, till she sat at a desk all day. It was torture. She could feel the light inside her grow dimmer and dimmer, and she thought that if she had to pick up that phone one more time, she'd just start the whole Armageddon thing people keep talking about. Not her idea, not her plan, but in a pinch, she's sure she could come up with something. The only thing that got her through to the end of the day was Snickers bars. She ate 37, plus thinking about the Eagle Nebula and the constellation Serpens. That helped. God wrote a fan letter to this country music singer he liked. God rarely writes fan letters, so he figured the singer would make a big deal out of this. He figured he'd get an autographed photo or something, but she never wrote back. Nothing. So he wrote her again, and he signed it God. Really? Nothing. Finally, he wrote one last time. He told her how much he liked her singing and how he had her concert video, which he played over and over, and how if she wanted, he could answer her prayers. Well, one at least. And finally, she wrote back and she said, "Dear God, I pray you will get a life." Well, thought God, just what did she mean by that? God went to India to see the elephants. God adores elephants. He thinks they are the best thing he ever made. They do everything he hoped for. They love their children. They don't kill. They mourn their dead. This last thing is especially important to God. Elephants visit the graves of those they loved. They spend hours there. They fondle the dry bones. They mourn. God understands mourning better than any other emotion, better even than love, because he has lost everything he has ever made. You make life, you make death. The things God makes always turn into something else, and he does find this good, but he can't help missing all the originals. God got a dog. She never meant to. She liked dogs. She'd liked them ever since she was a kid, but she didn't think she had time for a dog now. She was always working, and dogs needed so much attention. God didn't know if she could take being needed by one more thing. But she saw this dog out by the tracks, and it was hungry and cold and lonely, and God realized she'd made that dog somehow. Somehow she was responsible, though she knew logically that she had only set the world on its course. She couldn't be blamed for everything. But she saw this dog and she felt bad, so she took it home and named it Ernie. And now God has somebody keeping her feet warm at night. The end.
Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed this episode of Connections from the Couch. If your family would like to create a brief episode, including uplifting material and gifts of your choosing, please contact us, Megan or Carney, co-directors of Pilgrim Connect, at outreach@uccbozeman.org. This program has been brought to you by Pilgrim Congregational United Church of Christ in Bozeman, Montana. Bye!
Bye!
Say bye, buddy.